Right. Let us get into our discussion. Like I said, today we're talking text. We'll continue with this song, and I know some people are enjoying this song so much, so we'll continue with this song after the text deduction. To those of you that are listening to me on Facebook, please let me know our sound is okay. If there's no sound coming in, let me know as well, so that I can rectify that. But anyway, today we're talking text, and like I said, we're talking about home office expenses. What we seek to address today is who actually qualifies for this. What are the things that you need to look out for, right? What is SARS saying about home office expenses? Who are they going to allow? Who are they not going to allow to deduct home office expenses? There are quite a lot of examples, so we're not going to go into much detail today. We're just going to cover sort of, the basics. Um, yeah, we're going to cover the basics. And if you have questions, you're welcome to ask questions in the comment box or in the listeners' WhatsApp group channel. Or what you can also do is send me a WhatsApp message on 021 823 9684. So let's get into that discussion this afternoon. Like I said, we're talking all things tax, but specifically we're dealing with home office expenses. Right. So, when COVID-19 hit us from last year, about March, it actually started around December, but we got into lockdown from around 27th of March. And as a result, most of us were now forced to work from home. Right. It was not an option. We had to, our companies or employers had to say to us, hey, you need to work from home. And some companies actually closed offices and people were asked to go and work from home. And then there were people like myself who have always been working from home because we thought it was the most, attractive thing to do, given what is happening in the economy and the world over, especially the gig economy. So the gig economy is just where you get a gig basically to do specific work. So whether you're doing it from Upwork, whether you're doing it from Fiverr or any other platform, but essentially just getting pieces of work that you can do at your, at the luxury of your home. So basically, working from home. Now, let us talk about these things. So, likely, for some of these people, you and I, we are allowed to claim home office expenses, or those expenses that you incur whilst you're working from home. But there's certain conditions that you need to meet before you can deduct this. You can't just say, "Well, I've been working from home, therefore everything that I've spent in renovating or repairing the office or buying things, airtime, stationery, and all of those things, I now deduct." Remember, if you're also deducting home office expenses, you are likely going to be selected for verification or audit by SARS, because SARS has to ensure and make sure that you have deducted the correct expenses, right? And so it is also important for you to make sure that you correctly and accurately claim these deductions. Do not claim any personal expenses, because otherwise you're going to be in trouble. So this tax season, a lot of us are going to be claiming these things. So it is worth understanding the rules around home office expenses and who's allowed, under what circumstances are you allowed to claim these expenses, because not everyone is going to end up having to deduct these home office expenses. And having said this, it is also important to point out that the situation is different for people that are self-employed, that have always been working from home, because essentially, or freelancers as well, so proprietors and freelancers, because you have always been running a business. So those expenses have largely been, your business expenses that you could apportion to your business and claim for those. So we're specifically talking about employed people that are working from home, right? Those are the people that we're talking about. So what are these conditions that you need to meet for SARS to say you are allowed to deduct home office expenses? Number one, your employer must allow you as the taxpayer to work from home. So you can't just wake up and decide, well, I'm going to work from home, therefore I'm going to deduct home office expenses. Your employer must give you express permission to um, to work from home. This is very important. Your employer must give you specific instructions to work from home. Right. Point number two. the you as the taxpayer must spend more than half of your time working from home or from your home office, right? You must spend more than half of your total working hours working from your home office. Point number three, or some of the conditions, uh, the part of your home that you use, or the part of your home in respect of which the claim is to be submitted, must be occupied for the purposes of trade. In other words, you must occupy this office space as exclusively an area exclusively designed for you to carry out your work. Right, this word exclusive, you must underline this word exclusive because it is very important to understand what SARS is trying to get to here. Because if you're going to set aside some other space in your house, like your bar area, right? Not for beer, but like for drinks and juice and all of that stuff, or your kitchen or your bedroom, then you are not going to qualify for this deduction because, as is saying, these areas are not exclusively set aside for the purposes of your trade, which is your work, right? Point number four, and obviously building from the point that we said earlier on about exclusivity, right? Your home office being exclusively designed and set aside for this. So design in terms of this also means that your home office home office must be equipped for your purposes of trade. So it can't be anything else. It can't be like a bedroom that, because you're sitting there and working from there. It can be like your lounge. Like right now, I'm working from my lounge because I closed off my home office. So I can't claim any home office expenses because I am not working in an area that is exclusively designed for that. However, if I had an office, I would qualify because I have all the tools that I need for my work, right? And before I decided to close off my office, I had an area designed for that, and I also have all the tools that were designed for me to carry out my work. So my computer, my desktop, my laptop, my tablets, everything else that I use for my trade were set up in this office. I even had a couch for my clients coming in for any visit that that may happen. The other point here is that part of your home office, or that part of your house that you set out as a home office must be regularly and exclusively, right? So those two words you must understand and also underline: regularly and exclusively. So you must always be using it for your trade. That's the regular part, and exclusively, like we already said, you must be using it only for the purposes of your trade. So if you're going to have visitors coming in into your so-called office, right? It like your personal visitors, your family visitors, it loses that exclusivity. It also loses that regular use for the purposes of trade. So you need to trade carefully here. And yes, we might have questions on this and say, but how is it going to work for people that do not have bigger houses because you don't have the luxury to set aside a specific room as an office. So the people that are challenging SARS on that, we don't know what the outcome is going to be, but definitely that's a point worth considering, because if they say to us only those people that have regular and exclusive use of a home office are only able to claim this home office expenses, then we're only going to have the rich or the elite claiming this home office expense, and everyone else is disqualified from this process. So that's a point that someone else is following up on, and if we have a feedback from SARS, I'm going to make sure that I feedback this to you. So what expenses can you deduct if you meet all these conditions that we have spoken about? What are the expenses that you can deduct, right? So first one is to check if you qualify as a commission earner or as a salaried employee. So a commission earner takes more than 50% of the total remuneration from commission or some other variable income, which is based on their performance. Other than that, you won't qualify. If you're a normal salaried employee with variable payments or commission making less than 50% of your total remuneration, then that is also something that you need to consider. Right. The commission earners can deduct any of the following your rent, your interest on the bond if your house is still under mortgage, repairs to your premises. So repairs is a very important aspect of this, because you need to distinguish between repairs and renovations, right? If you're renovating, that is not a repair, and SARS is not going to allow you to claim for renovations. Your renovations, you're going to claim as a deduction when you sell your property at the end of its life, so, or wherever you decide to sell. And when you calculate your capital gains, then that becomes part of your base cost, right? Part of your cost of building and buying that house. The other cost that you can claim here is your rates and taxes, cleaning. If you have someone that comes regularly to clean in your house or your office, then that is also an expense that you can claim. Your internet that you use, your fiber, your whatever broadband, that's also something that you can claim. Wear and tear and depreciation, obviously relating to the equipment that you're using in your home office. So that is important. And then all other expenses relating to your house, as well as other commission related to business expenses, such as your telephone, your stationery, repairs to printers, and any other equipment that you use, or if your maid is also available to answer your calls when people call you and you're not there, she's answering calls and taking messages. That's something that you can also claim on. But remember, this one is going to be a tricky one, because SARS is obviously going to ask for proof that you were, paying your maid for this particular purpose. Right, the salaried employees with variable payments or commission that make up less than 50% of the total remuneration can deduct. Like we said, some of these expenses will sound similar. Your rent for the premises, if you're renting the premises, interest on your bond if your property is still bonded or under mortgage, cost to repairs of your premises, and remember, not renovations, because renovations become part of the base cost. In other words, part of the capital cost of your house. Rates and taxes, your cleaning, your internet, wear and tear, and other expenses relating to your house. And if there are any accounting fees that you're also paying for someone to advise you on tax or any other things, then that is something that you can also claim. Now, how do you calculate your home office expense deduction? One would need to work out or measure the total space of the house, and or otherwise rather of the office in relation to the total square meterage of the house. In other words, if your house is 500 square meters and your office is 20 square meters, you're going to apportion your expenses 20 over 500, right? Because you only want these expenses that we've spoken about earlier to be apportioned in that ratio. Otherwise, you're going to have trouble. So let's have an example here. So say that you, as a taxpayer, you are a software engineer, and you work for a company called Corona Company Private Limited, and your remuneration in this case consists of salary only. There is no commission. Your company allows you to work from home 3 days per week, so you regularly work from home, and you allow, there's an express permission for you to work from home. You, as a taxpayer, then you have a separate office at home, and this office is fitted with a computer and a printer, graphic designs, and all these other things that you use for your work, and you use these tools and this home office expense exclusively for your software engineering job, right? Your home office is 30 square meters, and the floor of your entire house is 300 square meters. So let's assume that you also had expenses of 120,000 interest on your bond, and you had 36,000 for electricity and rates and other expenses. You also paid 36,000 to your cleaner. You also had 5,000 roof repairs to your house, and you paid 12,000 for telephone and other expenses. That, based on the above information, or the information that I've just given you, you qualify for home office deduction based on the space occupied by yourself, and that would be 10% of the cost that we have highlighted earlier. So 30 over 300 gives you the 10%, and therefore we're going to say 10% of all the costs that I've mentioned earlier, the 120, the 36,000, the 36,000, the 5,000. So the total home office expense deduction in this case would be 19,700. Right. Your cell phone cost will not be deductible since you're not a commission earner. Right. That is critical to understand. Right. So for this 2021 tax season, the question is, do I qualify for this home office expenses? So if if you remember, the tax season started from 1 March 2020 and it ended on the 28th of Feb 2021. So to be able to claim this home office expenses, you would have to meet all the conditions that are specified earlier, but you must also have been working from home for at least more than 6 months of the year. So if you're working from home until at least the end of September 2020, you have good grounds for you to claim for home office expenses. But remember the conditions, and remember that you also need to have express permission from your employer to be working from home. Otherwise, you won't be able to claim. Right. So the things to watch out for here, and these are very critical things to watch out for. The home office must be exclusively used for purposes of trade and cannot be shared with anyone else, even your children. So if your children are going to be using your home office expense to play games or to read, to study, to do other things, like I said earlier, that disqualifies you because SARS is saying it has to be exclusive to your home office expense. So this also means that you'll not be able to claim if you're sharing your home office expense with your spouse, right? You're married in community of property, and you and your spouse use the same office. SARS is saying you cannot claim this. They only has to be one of you using that specific office. And this is something that I also said earlier, that some people are challenging this, because what it means, if you have a spouse, it means that your spouse then have to have their own home office, and if you are limited in terms of space, that becomes a problem for you. You won't be able to claim anything. And only though the elite people that are able to have more space, are able to build more things at their house, are only able to do that. So to be able to claim, the other members of the household, like I said, must have their own of home office spaces in their house. Well, like I said, it may not be practical because you may have limited resources, you may have a smaller house, or you might be renting and your landlord doesn't allow you to do those things. So that's a critical thing to understand. The last one here is the office space must be specifically equipped with your tools for your trade. So if you're working from your home, well, your bed is not, an equipment for your work. Your wardrobe and your shoe racks and all these other things, your dressing tables are not tools for your trade. So you won't be able to claim as a home office. So your lounge also doesn't count because you're not using it. It's not equipped for your work. It's for your purposes. Your dining room also may not be ideal. It doesn't qualify you for that. So that's everything text wise. If you have any questions, I don't see any comments. I don't see any questions on the comment section. I don't see comments or questions on the WhatsApp. But if you do have any question, please do send me a question on WhatsApp, or send me and yeah, on WhatsApp or on comments. And if you want this detailed document from SARS, it's a 17-page document from SARS, a guidance on home office expenses. If you want it, and if you also want a few other articles that can help you prepare for this tax season, please do send me a message, and also send me your email address so that I can send these directly to you. Otherwise, that's everything for text for this text deduction discussion. Look at me, I'm saying deduction because my head is telling me that we're talking about text. Anyway, so we're going to continue with music, and until the